Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get into it, I just want to quickly introduce the experts that I have with me today. So from Cloud Essentials, I'm joined by Johann van Schalkwyk, Head of Solutions, and Nivasha Sanilal, our Governance Lead. Both Johann and Nivasha work hands-on with organizations navigating data governance, compliance, and now increasingly AI at scale. So huge experience with what we're going to discuss today. And we're also really pleased to have back with us, I guess. He's becoming a regular, and we're delighted about that. Ashley Hack from Microsoft, Senior AI Workforce Specialist, who will bring the Microsoft perspective on how organizations are approaching AI risk and security in practice. So the theme for today is, you can't trust what you can't see, how leaders build confidence and control in AI. And that line really sums up what we're hearing across the market at the moment, really. There's a huge excitement, obviously, around AI, and rightly so. But alongside that, there's a growing level of concern as well. So that concern revolves around, who owns it, where it's being used, and ultimately how much control organizations really have. So when you look at the reality of it, AI isn't getting neatly in one team. It's cutting across, things like IT, risk, compliance, the business, and that's where things can get messy if there isn't a clear framework in place. So today is really about bringing some clarity to that. We'll walk you through how organizations are starting to establish clear business ownership for AI use cases, so you're not left with those gray areas between teams. How to define decision rights and risk acceptance when AI can operate independently and where human judgment still needs to step in. And importantly, how to put in place risk-based governance frameworks that actually enable AI adoption rather than, slow everything down. We'll also get into the practical side of things, because one of the biggest challenges that we see is visibility. So where is AI actually being used? What's happening with shadow AI? And how do you monitor agents as they start to operate more autonomously? So we'll show, from our experience, I suppose, how organizations are starting to get end-to-end visibility using Microsoft tools like the security dashboard for AI and Agent 365, and how that feeds into something boards increasingly care about, which is clear, defensible proof of oversight and control. So by the end of the session, there's one simple goal. You should walk away with a much clearer view of how to move from uncertainty to control, and how to do that in a way that supports innovation and not blocks it. And we've got some practical next steps that help start you on that journey as well. So let's get into it. Quick reminder before we start about who we are at Cloud Essentials. We are a long-standing and dedicated Microsoft 365 partner. We specialize in the area of enterprise information management and being a trusted advisor to Microsoft-centric customers. Everything we do revolves around Microsoft 365 and Azure, underpinned by a long heritage in content, compliance, and information governance. We help organizations turn growing data complexity into clarity, control, and opportunity. And we transform Microsoft cloud environments through structured large-scale migration and modernization programs, helping organizations move, consolidate, and rationalize their data estates with confidence. Alongside this, we deliver enterprise information management that improves structure, quality, and control, and embed governance and security so data is accurate, protected, and trusted. And this helps organizations unlock more value from their Microsoft platform, confidently adopt AI and automation at scale. Some of our core solutions and services include Data Governance as a Service, which is our flagship managed offering around Microsoft Purview. We do Microsoft Purview deployment as a service, looking at core work streams around information protection, DLP, insider risk management. We have AI maturity and data governance assessments, looking at your current posture to build out a roadmap moving forward. We also look at identity and access management deployment as a service, so Microsoft Entra ID, identity governance, identity security and administration as well. We look at things like enterprise search and storage optimization, enterprise archiving and backup for unstructured data as well, Microsoft Intune deployment as a service, and also Microsoft Azure advisory. There's also wider discussions now happening around Copilot agents and agentic AI enterprise services as well. Okay, that's the opening monologue done. Let's get into the interesting stuff. I'm firstly going to pass over to Ash from Microsoft, who's going to set the scene for us from an AI and agent perspective. Ash, over to you. Maybe a quick introduction to start, and let's hear your take on the current landscape.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, thanks very much, Geth. So look, for those on the call, I'm Ashley Hack. I'm a senior AI workforce specialist at Microsoft. And the pace of change at the moment is probably the most crazy thing that we're seeing. And I think that's why I'm going to start today with a question that I think is on every leader's mind right now, which is what's really holding your organization back. We talk a lot about capacity. People are stretched, teams are maxed out, there aren't enough hours in the day, and that is real. But that's the thing that really there is saying that capacity is a visible challenge. Something that everyone can point to. We're seeing that the real hidden crisis is actually innovation. So, your best people are spending their days on repetitive, low value work instead of the creative, strategic thinking that actually moves the needle and moves the business forward. And the stats do back this up as well. Employees are being interrupted every 2 minutes on average, and 60% of their time goes on repetitive tasks. That's not a productivity problem. That's an innovation crisis. And that's exactly the gap that AI with agents should be able to help you to close. The latest McKinsey report tells us that it's now believed that up to 70% of manual tasks can now be completed with agentic AI, which will unlock trillions of dollars in value, but also boost productivity by about 30%. Now, the focus up until now with basic AI has really been focused on time savings. And time savings are great. They make us feel more efficient, more productive, and they really, really do improve the employee experience. But that alone isn't really enough. You need to start thinking about how agents come into play if you want to start thinking about organizational growth. So not just by doing things faster, but by completely reimagining those processes. So why does agentic AI matter right now? Why not wait 6 months, see how things play out? Well, I'm going to give you 4 reasons for that. So first, competitive urgency. The train has already left the station, really. Companies that are delaying adoption, they're not standing still, they're actually falling behind. And the early movers are the ones that are establishing that market leadership. And the gap is widening from month to month every single quarter. Second, the productivity revolution. So that's what we're seeing, what we call frontier firms, those organizations that have gone all in on agentic AI. They're experiencing massive boosts in output, faster decision making, and genuinely more efficient operations. And that is really the Microsoft platform in action. So it's a combination of Azure AI, Copilot, and the agent ecosystem, which is going to give you a unified enterprise grade stack that no other provider can really match end to end. Third is talent. And the best people really do want to work with the best tools. We see that AI empowered companies are attracting the top talent right now, and they are looking for modern and innovative environments. And then fourth, breakthrough innovation. So AI is no longer a back office efficiency tool. It's now, driving game-changing innovation across organizations. It's going to create entirely new products, entirely new services, and actually entirely new business models as well. And again, this is where the Microsoft ecosystem really starts to shine, because you're not locked into one narrow AI capability. You can get the full spectrum, from ready to go Copilot experiences out of the box to custom agents then built on Azure AI Foundry. And again, this is where the data starts to tell us a really compelling story. So, AI adoption isn't just growing, it's actually accelerating now at a pace that we probably haven't seen with any enterprise technology before, even at Microsoft. And agents are right at the forefront of that wave. With Gartner reporting, as you can see on the screen, over 1.3 billion agents to be in active usage by 2028. It's a huge, huge number. So what's happening here is a convergence. The models are getting dramatically more capable. The tooling is maturing. And critically, the enterprise infrastructure to deploy AI safely and at scale now exists. And that's what we've been building at Microsoft, not just great AI models, but the entire platform that you need to go to from experiment to production. And again, with this platform, you get identity and access management built in through Entra. You get data governance through Purview. You get compliance and security baked into every layer. No other AI provider gives you that full stack enterprise story. And that really does matter, because if you deploy AI without that foundation, it's like building a house without any foundation. It might look good for a while, but it probably isn't going to last. And this is why the bet on Microsoft's argument is so strong. because you're not just getting one model or one product. It's an entire integrated ecosystem that covers everything, from your daily tools to those custom agents, and it's all enterprise ready. But this is a part of the conversation that I think perhaps is the most important, and arguably is the one that doesn't get enough airtime, and that is trust. So, of course, AI creates entirely new attack surfaces. We're not just dealing with traditional threat vectors anymore, phishing, malware, credential theft. Now you've got prompt injection, data poisoning, model manipulation, shadow AI is the big one, sprawling across your organization. And the threat landscape really now has fundamentally expanded. And this is exactly why it's really important that the platform that you choose is the right one. If you're building AI on a platform that treats security as an afterthought, you're probably creating risk at the same speed, if not quicker, as you're creating value. And our approach at Microsoft is fundamentally different from that. So security, compliance, and responsible AI, all built into the platform from the ground up, not a bolt-on afterwards. With things like Defender for AI, you can get real-time threat protection across your AI workloads. Purview, you're getting data governance, so your agents can only access what they're supposed to. Again, with Entra, you're getting identity control, so every agent operates within those clearly defined boundaries. And again, we're really starting to see this as something that's no longer optional. This is table stakes now for any serious enterprise organization for their AI deployment. And this brings us to the big question then, I suppose the question for the day and for the webinar, which is, how do you make AI agents as trusted and as productive as your best employees? Because that's now the bar. So we're not just deploying tools anymore. We're now actually onboarding what we can think of as digital colleagues. And just like you wouldn't give a new hire unfettered access to every single system you have on day one, and you shouldn't do that with an AI agent either. But you need identity, you need governance, you need guardrails, and you need all of that while still not killing the productivity gains that make agents and AI valuable in the first place. And it's a real fine balance, but that balance of trust and productivity together is what you'll find in that Microsoft platform. So again, whether you're rolling out Copilot across your organization for immediate out-of-the-box value, or if you're thinking about building custom agents with Copilot Studio and Azure AI Foundry for your specific business processes, both paths run on the same trusted, secured, and governed platform. And so before I hand over to Johann, my message for you guys today is really simple. The future of AI isn't just about capability, it really is about trust as well. The organizations that win will be the ones that move fast on AI adoption, still really, really important, but also whilst doing that, they're keeping security, governance, and responsible AI at the center of everything that they do. And so with that, I'll hand over to Johann.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Yeah, to link to what Ashley mentioned, with additional risk vectors that agent brings to the organization, your agents need the same level of protection and more for you to gain trust in the agentic AI solutions that is already within your environment. Agents are available 24/7, 365. They increase your user efficiency and output, therefore increasing risk. They have access to not only company data and tools, but also external data from external web sources. And then also additional risk vectors where agent-to-agent invocation and interaction on behalf of a user's activity. And then also how agents can integrate with other applications and third-party data sources. And as Ashley has mentioned, the best way for organizations to manage these agents is to extend and utilize existing solutions you have in place today with the use to manage users within the unified solutions available from your Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And Microsoft have packaged that into what is known as Microsoft Agent 365, which is the centralized control plane for AI agents. It allows organizations to manage agents securely, as mentioned by Ash. The identity and data, permission, and governance is all baked into Agent 365. The questions that all organizations must answer today is, what is this agent and who owns it? What data and tools can it touch? Can you see what it did and prove it? And lastly, can you retire it cleanly when its job ends, similar to a user? Agent 365 enables your security team to implement controls across identity, data, and security operations that makes it simpler and easier to answer these questions. Let's look a bit more in detail of how Agent 365 helps you across these functions, starting off with identity. Your identity and access management team already performs various operational tasks, such as managing users, groups, and guests in your tenant today. Because of the additional risk vectors, this needs to be extended to agents, including securing agents and preventing them from access apps and systems that they aren't privileged to access. Intra-Agent ID provides native built-in capabilities for managing and securing agents. With intra-agent ID, each agent gets a unique identity that combines the agent's own identity and the identity of the users using the agent during the interaction. Additional governance and security features, most probably already used by your users today, such as conditional access policies, access governance, and lifecycle management, can all be extended to agents using intra-agent ID. Next, let's look at the data security and compliance features. You currently, or at least should already be managing and protecting your sensitive data using Microsoft Purview to prevent data from privacy breaches, malicious or accidental data exfiltration, or similar risks. Again, Agent 365 allows you and utilizes Purview features such as data loss prevention policies and sensitivity labels to extend the protection to agents to prevent accidental data exploitation by detecting data flows, having the ability to monitor and visually see the data flows, but also then apply sensitivity labels on data that's where the agents or AI interact, and also through DLP block risky agent data flows, so preventing that from occurring. These risks can then be eliminated and firstly visualized by AI and agent-specific policies and controls natively within Purview today. Lastly, let's look at security operations and the features available within Agent 365. Your current team of security analysts or third-party SOC providers already performs various tasks for your organization, like incident management and threat investigation today. Agents, that has already been mentioned before today, requires these teams and operations to be extended to include their activities. But again, with the unified solutions available from Microsoft, it is built into Microsoft 365 Security of Defender Suite solutions. Within Microsoft Defender Suite of Solutions, your SecOps teams can utilize capabilities to detect, investigate, and protect agent and AI activities. But I think that's enough talking for today. Let me show you some of the key Agent 365 capabilities and how you can utilize them today. If some of you are familiar with the Office 365 Admin Center, Agent 365 lives within the same place I currently manage users and my tenant today, the Admin Center. It gives me a complete view of key metrics for every agent running in my organization, including agents built in Copilot Studio, Azure Foundry, and even those built by third-party partners. These metrics include security posture, adoption patterns, operational health, and business impact. Apart from just these overall metrics, I can look at detail of individual agents too. If I go into the All Agents view on the left-hand side, I see firstly the list of agents within my registry tab. This is a full inventory of all agents being used in my organization, regardless of where these agents came from or what platform it's running on. The agent registry auto-consolidates all agents. And I can go into more detail and get more information if I just simply select an individual agent. One example I can show you on screen today is the Zava Fabric Supply agent. I can see the agent was built internally and it's already live in the production environment in the Overview tab. But I can drill further down and gather more information around the agent. Firstly, let's look at the Users tab. In the Users tab, you can see a full list of users that can access and actually use this tenant. You can control the scope by removing users or even assigning it to a broader range of groups within your organization to prevent and manage which users have ability to access and utilize each agent. On the Security and Compliance tab, I can see exactly what security protections are currently in place within this agent. You can see Microsoft Purview protection, Entra protection, and Defender protection have all been embedded within this agent. The Data and Tools tab represents the agent's capabilities and contexts, what data it can access, and how it's equipped to reason and act. These data sources and tools are configured by the agent builders when they are built in Copilot or in Copilot Studio. But me as IT have centralized visibility and governance without having where the agents are built, without changing where the agents are built. I can gain this visibility from this admin center. Second to last is the Permissions tab. I can also see here exactly what permissions was granted to this agent. At any time, I can review, revoke, or approve these permissions. I have complete control outside of how the agent was created. What's also great about this Permissions tab is that it shows what the agent is actually allowed to access and act on during a runtime. Even if an agent knows about the data, permissions determine whether the agent can actually use it. And then lastly, the Activity tab. From a usage and adoption perspective, you can see a range of metrics that are related to the adoption of this specific agent. In this instance, we can see that the Java Fabric Supply agent has broad adoption across the organization and a low exception rate. But that's it for an overview of all agents. Now let's look at how the registry can help me manage and identify potential risky agents by providing oversight. If I select the Agent at Risk tab within the registry, I get a list of agents that have been flagged by potential security signals identified across Defender, Entra, and Purview. You can see this example agent have 2 risk alerts associated to it. If I click on it, I can see that Entra ID has surfaced 2 high-risk alerts. Entra is continuously monitoring agent activity to look for sign-in patterns that could present a threat. Entra conditional access can then also block these risky agents from accessing sensitive resources, as previously mentioned. The same happens for all the other security posture management. So you can also have alerts on data security from Purview, and Defender for other related security activities can all be highlighted as alerts within risky alerts from AI agents. I have the ability right here, based on these risks that's been highlighted to me, then to block agents. By simply selecting blocked agent and saving the change, the agent will be completely blocked from use within the organization. Outside of just a flat list of registry, a list of agents within my registry, I also have the ability to have a map view of agents within an organization. This is important because beyond individual agent health and how it functions, it's important to understand how these agents fit into our broader ecosystem. The connection map shows me how each agent interacts with other agents. When I need to, I can drill into these dependencies and figure out if there are any performance issues or security gaps I can address. That's done by simply selecting one of the agents highlighted again. And I get a similar view to the registry itemized view, where I get the same access to the same tabs, where I get detailed information and further information around that agent. I think that brings me to the last and probably most critical workflow that I want to show today, and how it helps me bringing new agents into my environment and organization safely. It's called a request, and that is one of the most important parts for onboarding new agents is setting the right guardrails, just like you would do for new people starting your organization. You need to set these guardrails once an agent is onboarded in your organization. In this request tab, It's a list of agents that people in your organization have built or have submitted for approval to be published within your organization. The on-screen one is the procurement agent that Mona Kane built within Copilot Studio. And before it gets approved, I need to review what it does and see if I'm happy with it, so we can publish it for general consumption in the organization. So what that looks like is if I, again, open up the selected agent, I get the agent information, I see what data and tools I got access to as part of my review process. I can comb through these details. I see, again, the security built into the agent, making sure that the security guardrails is all in place. I can review the permissions that this agent requires to function and review this. And then lastly, I can review who requested this agent from being published. We can define which users further can access this agent and also choose to auto-install this agent for specific groups of users within the organization, so they don't have to go hunt for this internal agent in an organization from the published store. If you click on approve this agent, you can then assign this agent to various set of users, individual users within your organization. Here we'll set it to the user that wants it published. And then it prompts me for policy templates. So these are policy templates security team have defined for organization. You can see I selected an access package that's already configured within Microsoft Entra ID. And that means it's the same identity and access governance that we already have in place. All the rules, everything we use can be simply applied to agents as part of this policy template. Once I've then accepted the permission request and reviewed it, I can simply finish the interaction to get this agent published for users' consumption. This means that just like that, the agent is now published and active for the users that you've selected to publish it to, and they can consume these agents. This process that I showed you for approving agents works exactly the same way when it's your onboard agent from external publishers. So you follow the same process, not only for internal created agents. So again, the same governance, same visibility, same control, all baked into Agent 365. And that's really that for Agent 365. It gives IT a single place to see, control, and govern agents at scale using trusted Microsoft security and identity controls, as Ashley mentioned at the start. So with Agent 365, it allows organizations to build that underlying trust in their unified security landscape to drive AI adoption faster. Another thing I want to show today, and I think Greta mentioned at the start, is a recently solution that was made available from Microsoft. It's called the Security Dashboard for AI. The Security Dashboard for AI is a new and unified dashboard designed for security teams and AI risk leaders. It aggregates and surfaces real-time AI posture and risk insights, spanning proactive governance and reactive threat protection across Microsoft security solutions, all in a single integrated view. Let's watch this demo video to understand some of the key features and benefits available from the dashboard for AI. I think that clearly outlines how the dashboard can really help your organization manage and also visualize the different levels of risk and management that you apply to your AI solutions and agents within your organization. So Microsoft is the first security provider to deliver unified and comprehensive solutions for AI, including data security and compliance and security posture management, threat protection, and various other safety systems across Microsoft Copilot agents, but also other enterprise agents, consumer AI, and even custom-built AI agents and solutions. So as Ash mentioned at the start, Microsoft really provides a unified platform across security and governance of AI and agents to allow organizations to develop the trust they need to fast-track their organization to become a frontier firm. But proper securing AI controls is more than just deploying these controls. it requires a proper governance framework and strategy. So I think I'll hand over now to Nivasha on more about AI compliance and governance and why that's important.
Thanks, Johann. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think if you have interacted with me previously, you'll know I'm the governance and compliance lead for Cloud Essentials. So really what I do at Cloud Essentials and for our highly regulated clients is I help them to deploy AI while still keeping track, or not just AI specifically, or Microsoft solutions, while still keeping track of their governance and risk priorities. Because as Johann said, it's not just about the technology. AI is moving out of the lab and into your real decisions and across your business, whether you sanction it or not, as we just saw on that video. So really what we look to do is how do you govern AI without the clear gaps? And sometimes, depending on where you're joining us from, because we often see even with attendees, you might be from risk and compliance or from the IT sector, but often we find that between those two teams, there's still some quiet gaps that might exist. So as I said, because AI is no longer just about using Copilot, it goes further than that. It's now making decisions. We're creating agents. We're creating these employees. It goes further. It's making decisions like who might get credit if you're in a banking institution, how a claim might be priced or processed if you're in an insurance institution or across various FSIs. So it's very important now to understand that the accountability that needs to be assigned to these agents. So as we saw from the technology, Microsoft has provided you with many tools, including this brilliant security dashboard that the video that we just saw. As a governance professional, that is something, especially if you're going into reporting, and you need to be able to show what's being used, how it's being used. That's certainly a great tool. But in addition to that, as we said, it's more, having effective controls is more than just what technology you might be using, even though that plays such a huge part in it. But I also want to put forward today 3 key foundations that you could use as a governance professional. So because you really want to get ahead of this, and it's becoming really impossible to get ahead of it at the rate of development. But you want to, as compliance, as risk, as these key professionals, you want to be able to lead rather than chase governance. So the foundations that I think would help you with that is firstly being able to assign clear business ownership, and I will unpack these in a little bit more detail. Having defined decisions and risk-based controls. So again, we are going to cover all of these in a little bit more detail, but the mindset that I look to, and when we are articulating things like AI risk, is being able to, and you should be able to treat AI as a material risk that we govern deliberately. So it's not just a novelty that we might react to because something was, used, something that was unsanctioned was used. You can't. This isn't a reactive process. This has to be a proactive process. And then obviously having that mindset, or this proactive mindset, but also having a shared baseline of AI literacy across your team. So obviously we have the EU AI Act, which requires this level of literacy. There's also various standards now, some voluntary, that are in place to help you guide your governance journey as well. So if we start with just start off with who needs to own this and establishing your AI accountability. And why I'm starting with ownership is because so often AI failures aren't due to the model failures, it isn't due to the technology using, it's due to the ownership around it. So if we look at a typical pattern, your IT team might build a system, might build an agent, your risk team might assess it, and then your compliance team might report on it. But who's actually owning the outcomes? Who owns what it might do? And often between these teams, that's where sometimes the problems will definitely follow through. So what we recommend is a fix to name one accountable business owner for every AI use case. So if you've interacted with Cloud Essentials before, you know we also have an AI maturity assessment, and part of that is where we talk about defining your business use cases or your AI use cases, and understanding what that might be. And so the same would apply. So if you are creating an agent, what is the use case for that agent? And if it is within a specific function, so if you've created a compliance specific agent, for example, it'll obviously sit with the function that might take the most value from that agent. So it's not necessarily with your IT stakeholders who have built the agent to help that function. So if you look at it from the lines of defense model, so there is this in the assurance field, we talk about the 3 lines of defense and this 3 lines model. And really, the business is your first line of defense, and they would tend to own the risk and compliance are the second line of defense, and they obviously provide oversight and challenge. And then lastly, and the piece I think people are often forgetting, is the third line of defense, which is typically provided by internal audit. And this provides independent assurance that your controls actually work. So if there's no third line, if there isn't this independent assurance that's unpacking whether your controls are effective, then you obviously have a governance gap. So if there is no third line assurance over your AI, you have a governance gap. And if you looked at the tooling, because often you might find that individuals who sit within these or the second and third line of defense might not be as close to the system. However, if you look at the tooling that we've displayed now, governance and risk professionals and audit professionals need to get closer to understanding how the rubber hits the road with the technology. And I think Microsoft has done that in the way they've simplified to a certain extent that process and the reporting process, so that you can get in there and understand exactly how the agent or the AI is affecting your risk landscape. If we move on, and I think this is highly controversial, it's around deciding who needs to decide. So ownership only works if the decision's right. So if those rights are explicit. So there's no room for gray here. We need to decide, okay, who owns this? So often, and we're talking about it, especially across now, if we talk about FSI and we talk about the EU AI Act as well, there is these discussions around how much human oversight an entity should have when using AI. So the EU AI Act makes it very concrete, and it says for high risk systems, it mandates that there must be meaningful human oversight. And then obviously that means human judgments must always intervene where outcomes are high impact or irreversible, or where rights, safety, or material money high value is at stake, or where there is or where the case is novel or ethically sensitive. So it's very important to be able to, so if you are using agents, or if you are using AI within certain processes that might enable the AI to make any decisions, what is your risk threshold? So to take a step back, we always look at it. So firstly, you'll need to be able to set a board-approved risk appetite for your AI. So just saying it's acceptable, there's no room for someone's opinion here anymore. This has to be set at that board level. And then understanding and accepting what residual risk might apply, and then accepting that risk explicitly as well. So no decision should be open to silence. There shouldn't be any default. Okay, someone built it, someone's using it, but we're actually not sure. There's no room for that silence around AI governance now. There has to be a clear owner in order for that control to also be effective. So it's very important to also understand, because we want to, as governance, risk and compliance professionals, you want to still be at the forefront of innovation and not necessarily just smother the entity with controls, and especially uniform controls, which could fail, especially if they are if you don't allow for things like low risk experimentation, or you might do the opposite and underprotect the things that can really hurt people. So that's really the risk with uniform controls. So it's really important that you match your controls to the risk. So be able to, and I guess this ties in with what I said earlier about setting that risk appetite at a board level as well. So at the top, you can think of things within your organization. Obviously, this is organization specific, that are simply off the table. So, for example, if you look at the EU AI Act, there's a fixed list to a certain extent of prohibited practices as to what is off limits. So there is some legislative guidance that you can take as well. So 3 disciplines really make it real. So you have to be able to classify every use case before it goes live, scale both the controls, as well as review the cadence of each tier. So just because something's high risk initially doesn't mean it will always stay high risk. So you must have this ongoing monitoring, ongoing reporting throughout your process. And then if you look at also from a legislative or even from a regulatory standards perspective, if you are looking to guidance, or if you are in a territory that might not have anything yet in place, there is also the NIST standard that really assists. So it's the NIST AI risk management framework, which provides for governing, being able to map, measure, and manage your AI controls, as well as if you look at the ISO standard, it's 23894 on AI risk management, which gives you a recognized, albeit voluntary, standard around how you're managing your AI. But again, even if you just look to the EU AI Act itself, it requires this continuous life cycle of risk management for your high risk AI specifically. So again, if you're speaking to, even if you remove the word AI because it feels like that's all everyone's talking to, you have to be able to govern AI like any other material risk. So if you're a risk and compliance professional, if you are setting out a compliance framework, your controls have to obviously be adequate and effective. You have to be able to design your control in a way that, yes, mentions the technology that you'll be using, which we've seen, which is brilliant, but it also has to have clear defined owners. There has to be clear monitoring and a monitoring frequency. And most importantly, it has to be risk-based and proportional to, well, your control has to be proportionate to what the AI is actually doing for you. Because this is how you get ahead of it. So instead of waiting for something to go wrong, worst case scenario, you're actually ahead of the curve to say, if something were to go wrong, this is classified as the highest level, highest tier of risk, and this is what would happen. And being able to have a defined, clear authority and a clear plan of action in the event that something goes wrong will really assist you in establishing this overall governance. So if we have to look at if you're looking for assistance with what types of controls you might need, and not just how to govern it. So if you look at, as I mentioned, ISO 42001, which is around an AI management system. So what does that actually do for you as an organization? So not only, because I think everyone's like, oh, we need an AI policy, and that's great. You do need one, but you need a meaningful AI policy. It needs to have defined roles. It needs to have a genuine, tailored AI risk assessment to your organization, as well as an impact, AI system impact assessment. So again, you need to have this. You need to have your compliance risk and teams working with your technology teams, because again, your system is obviously key here. How do these controls affect your system, and not just a paper-based, risk assessment that you might have done. So this standard really, it does pair well if you are looking to, really get your AI governance under control. It does pair well with the NIST AI risk management framework, as well as it provides some of the operating methods that you could use. And rather than looking at multiple systems and policies, perhaps pick one or two of these and then try and establish the key principles across both. Why it matters is because as much as this independent certification is great, but it's also important to not only just tick the boxes. You have to also substantively understand that control framework and embed it within your organization. If I just move on into how Cloud Essentials does it, so how we do this internally, we always say data governance and compliance is an ongoing journey. So as we've seen how it can mature, how AI is maturing just across our webinars. Like initially our webinars, we talked to you about Copilot. Now we talk to you about agents. Who knows what we might talk to you about next. But the way we have structured our data governance and security services is to help throughout that journey. So whether you right at the start, but you need that ongoing compliance and data governance. So you need things like establishing your policies, deciding which standards are within the risk, which standards you'd like to follow, and then which AI and what systems are within the risk appetite, understanding what your risk looks like as an organization. And then obviously being supported by ongoing monitoring and continued enhancement. So not just, as we said, things are moving really fast. So it's not just about implementing something or doing that once-off risk assessment. These are ongoing assessments that are required, ongoing monitoring that's required by the various lines of defense, which is obviously assisted greatly by the technology that we've shown you already. Also, in the event that there is an incident, it's important to have substantial incident response and support, being able to evidence that across tier one by having the necessary policies and processes in place in the event of an incident, and you do have to report if, for example, it's a privacy incident that was impacted or occurred due to your AI usage, you have to be able to evidence these things to your regulators when mitigating any sanctions or fines. What we also are able to do is, as we said, weekly data governance reports, because again, monthly forums are great, and we also have a monthly forum, which is our data governance panel. But because the risk is moving so fast, the technology is moving so fast, you could move from not using any unsanctioned apps on Monday to 10 in use by Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's important to check this. This is a moving target, being able to monitor this as an ongoing basis. And then obviously, whether it is an AI governance task force or we speak to an overall data governance task force instead to monitor it from an end-to-end perspective. But you need to have some sort of working committee who not only who doesn't only make up the people who create the apps or create the agents and the technology, but and monitor your risk, but the people who are also using it. So your key business owners of those use cases need to be part of those monthly data governance panels. In the instance that something's changing, there might be enhancements to the use cases. It's really important to do this on an ongoing basis. That's what we say. It's not a destination, it's really a journey. So whether you are using agents or just your general governance journey, it's really important to have these key things or these key areas in place in the event that something goes wrong, or rather be proactive and let's assume everything will continue to go well. But in the event that it doesn't, you already have your controls in place and you're not scrambling at that moment. So I think with that, I'll hand over back to Pierre just to wrap up on our side.
Yeah, thanks, Nivasha, and thanks for the contributions from Johann and Ash as well. Some great insight, as always, and intel into the technologies that's ready to be used. I think maybe just to summarize without maybe repeating too much on what Nivasha went through, if we leave you with probably just 3 practical things from today, it's these ones. First is name an owner. Like Nivasha has gone through, if an AI use case matters to the business, it needs a clear business owner, not just the team that built it, so not just IT, not just compliance looking in from the side. Someone has to be accountable for that outcome and that risk. The second one is, tier the risk. Not every AI use case needs the same level of scrutiny. The key is to match the controls, the approvals, and documentation to the level of impact. And that's how you stay in control without, slowing down everything. from a deployment perspective. And then third is the evidence to control. Governance only really works if you can actually show it. So if leadership asks where AI is being used, where shadow AI is creeping in, and what you're doing about it, you need that visibility and that proof. And that final point really ties in nicely with the next steps that comes into this. For organizations that want to take this from, I suppose, theory into something quite practical, one follow-on that we can support with is a shadow AI assessment, which is designed to help you. It's designed to help get a clearer view of which AI tools are being used across the organization. So, how people are interacting with them and where sensitive data may already be showing up in prompts or uploads. It's a very practical way to move from, we think this might be happening to we can actually see what's going on and decide what to do next about it. So if today's discussion has resonated and that feels like the right next step for your organization, then feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about whether it's a good fit to move forward with. With that, I'm going to say a big thank you to our panel. So Ash, as always, great to have you on, and we'll maybe see you on the next one. Johann and Nivasha, fantastic as always. Please look out for the next in our webinar series, and I'm sure you'll hear from me as a follow-up to this session as well. But thanks for your attendance. Cheers all.